Hi everyone, today we are going to do the past year NEET questions to the chapter Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plant. Today in this video we will complete part 4. So let's begin with the first question, which was asked in the year 2002. What is the direction of the micropyle in Anatrophis ovule? So before we go into the answer, let's discuss what is this Anatrophis ovule. It's a completely inverted ovule turned back at how many degrees? It's usually 180 degrees. Okay, on its stalk. And we know what an ovule is. It is a small body that contains a female germ cell of a plant, develops into a seed after fertilization. So we have different types of ovule. We have atrophis or orthotrophis, then we have anatrophis that we saw here, then we have hemianatrophis, camelotrophis. All these are the different types of ovule that you see. So the particular answer for this question is option B, downward. While if you have another ovule which is orthotrophis, where the ovule is set, where the micropyle is actually upward. Okay, next question here. In angiosperms, all the 4 microspores of tetrad are covered by a layer which is formed by dash. So before we go into the solution, let me tell you something here. So I've already written their flowering plants. So what are angiosperms? Angiosperms are flowering plants, and if you see, they are set of the diverse set of plants that you find, and they are of 64 orders, 416 families, more than 3 lakh species known. So like gymnosperms, angiosperms also produce seeds, but one thing important here to be noted here is they produce flowers also. So here they are talking about the layer. The layer, if you see, it is formed by sporopollenin, which is D is the answer. The outermost covering of the pollen grain is made by sporopollenin. Next question here. Nemophily type of pollination is found in dash, and this question was asked in the year 2001. So here you're given 4 options here. Okay, we have salvia, bottlebrush, valsinaria, and we have cocoanut. Valsinaria exhibits hydrophily and salvia is pollinated by honeybee. While if you take in bottlebrush, the pollination is carried out with the help of birds. So Nemophily type of pollination is found in coconut. Therefore the right answer to this question is option B. Okay, next question here. 8 nucleate embryo sacs are dash, and this question was asked in the year 2000. And you have something to your right side. Can you see that? It says that bisporic type and tetrasporic type. Now coming back to this question. So if you look here, the embryo sac is a female gametophyte of a seed plant consisting of a thin-walled sac within the ovule that contains the egg nucleus and the other nuclei, which gives rise to the endosperm on fertilization. The type of the embryo sac development depends on the number of the spore nuclei entering into it. In the monosporic, meiosis of diploid mother cell produces 4 haploid megastore, 3 of which undergoes programmed cell death. Now coming back to this, what happens here exactly? If you see, in biosporic, meiosis produces only 2 megaspores, each containing 2 haploid nuclei, one which will die. In tetrasporic cell, the plate fail to form another or after both meiosis division, resulting in a single 4 nuclear megaspore. So all megaspore can develop in the 8 nuclear embryo sac. Therefore the right answer to this question is option D. Sometimes monosporic, sometimes biosporic, and sometimes tetrasporic. Therefore the right answer is option D. Next question here. The endosperm of the gymnosperm is dash. Very easy question. I think all of you would have guessed the answer by now. The endosperm of the gymnosperm is dash. It is, yes, it is haploid. I think this we discussed in the earlier parts. In gymnosperms, the female gametophyte forming the archonia provides a nourishment to the developing embryo. This is something that we already know. It later gets transformed into a food-laden endosperm inside the seed. Okay, what is the important point to be noted here is the food-laden part. Endosperm provides nourishment for growth of the seed at the time of the seed germination. Triploid endosperm occurs in angiosperms. Therefore, the right answer to this question is haploid. Next question here. Flowers showing orthanophily show few characteristics like dash. So before we go into the answer, let's discuss few points about orthophily. So this has another name, and it is also called as bird pollination. Okay, it is the pollination of flowering plants by birds. This sometimes co-evolutionary, that is, they say this as co-evolutionary association, is derived from the insect pollination and particularly well developed in some parts of the world, especially if you see in tropics and some island chains. So what is this characteristic about this? The plants typically have colorful, often red flowers with long tubular structures holding ample nectar and orientations of the stamen and the stigma to ensure contact with the pollinator. So the flowers showing orthophily show few characteristics like, the right answer is option A, blue flower, or it will be bright red. Okay, so transfer of the pollen grains by the birds is known as orthophily, and this is usually done for bright colored flowers. So blue flowers with nectaries at the base of the corolla will be the right answer here. So here if you look at the option C, it shows thick inflorescence. That is why it went wrong. Otherwise it would have been correct, because there is also some bright red consistency in it. Therefore we move on to the next question here. How many pollen grains will be formed after the meiotic division in 10 microspore mother cells? This is a very easy question for you to answer. So remember here, each microspore mother cell gives rise to how many? 4 microspores which develop into pollen grains. Therefore the right answer to this question is 40. Okay, next question here. In an angiosperm, how many microspore mother cells are required to produce 100 pollen grains? So each microspore mother cells undergo meiosis to produce 4 pollen grains. Thus 25 microspore mother cells are required to produce 100 pollen grains. Next question here. Chief pollinators of agricultural crops are dash, and this question was asked in the year 1994. This is a very easy question for you to answer. Just analyze. Pollination by the insect is also known as entophomily, and among insects, bees are the best pollinators that we ever know, and they are the most common pollinators, which pollinate about 80% of the total insect pollinated flowers. Therefore the right answer falls for option B, bees. Next question here. Transfer of pollen to the stigma of another flower of the same plant is dash. So I'm going to show you something. You can refer it, so that will be easy for you to answer. So when I say autogamy, it is self-pollination, automatic. Then you have gatonogamy, which is neighbor. Okay, and gamos means marriage. That is, the pollen grains are transferred to the stigma of the other flowers of the same plant. That is the neighboring flowers. And allogamy, xenogamy, they are cross-pollination. So the transfer of the pollen to the stigma of another flower of the same plant is termed as gatonogamy. Okay, neighboring flower. Next question here. Fertilization involving carrying of male gametes by pollen tube is dash, and this question was again asked in the year 1994. So we already spoke about angiosperms, right? Angiosperms are flowering plants. So in angiosperms, the male gametes are carried by the pollen tube, was discovered by Strasburger in 1884, and this process is defined, or it is called as so what is it called as? Siphonogamy. Therefore fertilization involving carrying of a male gamete by a pollen tube is referred as siphonogamy or synagamy, which is option B, siphonogamy. Okay, next question here. One of the most resistant biological material is dash. So what do you think will be the answer here? One of the most resistant biological material. Each pollen has two layered wall. Okay, the outer layer is said to be thick, tough, cuticulized or cuticularized, and that is called as exene, which is composed of material called as sporopollenin. So the right answer is sporopollenin. It is highly resistant to biological and physical decomposition, due to which the pollens are preserved for a long time in fossils. One of the most resistant biological material is a sporopollenin, which is option D, the right answer. Next question here. Ovule is straight with funiculus, embryo sac, then you have halsa and microphyll lying on a straight line. It is dash. Very easy. So you have the microphyll lying on the straight line. You should be able to answer this. C. It is said to be orthotrophous, which is option A. So here they are saying that it is polygonum type ovule, in which the body of the ovule is straight. It has funiculus, halsa, embryo sac, microphyll, and everything lie in the same vertical axis, and that is termed as orthotrophous, which is option A. Next question here. Number of meiotic divisions required to produce 200 by 400 seeds of pea would be dash. See, 200 seeds of pea would be produced from 200 pollen grains and 200 embryo sac. 200 pollen grains will be formed by 50 microspore mother cell, while 200 embryo sac will be formed by 200 megaspore mother cell. Because 3 will degenerate, so it should be 250 divided by 300. Therefore, the right answer to this question is option D. So with this, we complete the part 4 of sexual flowering in plants. Hope to meet you in the next part with another set of questions. Thank you.